Alright kids, so now we're going to do Unit 3 classwork number 4, balancing charges with polyatomic ions and transition metals. So we already know how to do the transition metal part. Now we're going to apply the polyatomic ion part. Okay? So I'm actually going to skip to number 2 on this assignment so that you can see the special rule for any of your polyatomics. Okay? So this one's called calcium hydroxide. And notice that this is nowhere on your periodic table. In fact, this is something that you've been working to memorize. That's found on your pink sheet, which are called the polyatomic ions. It's one of those. So our job right now is to remember what it is and then balance the charges. If you have to, pull out your pink sheet or your flashcards so that you can use these, because this whole worksheet you're going to be using all of those. Alright? Well, the first part, calcium. Calcium on our periodic table is one of our metals. It's in group 2. Hold on one second. Let me play with the... Alright, so calcium's in group 2. It's one of our metals. We know because it's in group 2, it's a positive 2 charge. So I'm going to write it in the cations as calcium 2+. Now hopefully by now your hydroxide, you either remember it or you have your pink sheet and you would write OH negative. This is something you have to memorize, okay? If you haven't by now, you need to start going through your flashcards, start quizzing your neighbors, and you need to remember these. Alright, so now that we have both pieces, we're going to put it on our balance. This side's always our metal, this side's our non-metal. Well, the metal always is the cation, so we're going to write it on the left side. Our anion always goes where the non-metal goes, so that's OH negative. Alright, right now this side's a +2 and this side's a -1, so we know these don't cancel yet. So we need to add more to the side that's a lower number, which is a -1, so I'm going to add another OH negative. Now it becomes a -2. So now these numbers do cancel. So now we can stick them together as a formula. Well, I'm going to start by writing our metal again, which is Ca. We only have one of them, so I don't need to put a number. But now we have 2 OHs. So to properly show that we have 2 of the entire thing, 2 O's and 2 H's, I need to start a parentheses, put my OH inside of it, and then put a little 2 on the outside to show that we have 2 of them. Okay? And now the very last part, we name it pretty much like we're used to. Ca is called calcium, and OH is called hydroxide. Now that one did end in IDE. If it didn't, and it comes from the pink sheet, for instance sulfate, carbonate, or phosphate, you do not change the endings of those names. Okay? Well, let's flip it to the back. I'm going to do one more with you so that you understand. And I'm going to do number 10. So this is called molybdenum, and you have this Roman numeral 3, carbonate. So in our cation box, it's always the first part, it's always the metal. And we know this is a metal because it's got a Roman numeral, so we know this is a transition metal. And in fact, we can find it on our transition metal section right here. It's number 42. That's our transition metals. We know this is going to be our cation. Okay? So MO is molybdenum. And we know the charge on MO is this Roman numeral 3. So I'm going to put a 3, and it's a plus because metals are always positive. Now the carbonate part, again, you got to know this. So I'm going to remember from my pink sheet that carbonate starts with a carbon. It has oxygens. There are 3 oxygens, and it has a 2 negative charge. So now we're going to draw our balance. And we're going to put the pieces on the balance. We got MO with a 3+. We got CO3, the 2-. right now our plus 3 and our minus 2 do not cancel. So I'm going to add another carbonate and see what happens. Okay? Well, now their total is a 2 and a 2, so that's a 4 charge. Well, that still doesn't cancel with my 3 over here. So now I got to add something to this side because it's smaller. We're going to add another MO. So that's 3 plus 3, which equals 6. Okay, well that still doesn't cancel with this 4 over here, so I got to add another thing over here, so we're going to add another carbonate. Well, now it's 2 plus 2 plus 2, which that equals a negative 6. Well, this positive 6 and this negative 6, now they cancel. So now that they cancel, we can make our formula over here. So we have MO, and there are 2 of them. And then we have CO3. Now, because CO3 has carbons and oxygens put together, we need to start a parenthesis since we have more than one of them. And we put CO3 because this 3 is part of the carbonate. You can't leave it off. And then we close the parentheses. Now I count how many I have. I have 1, 2, 3 of them, so we put a little 3 on the outside. So that is your final formula. MO2, parentheses CO3, parentheses 3. And this thing, if we go back to the front, is called molybdenum 3 carbonate. All right. Now you can finish the rest of this worksheet on the front and the back. If you have any questions, work together and see if you can come up with the answers.